Fiat Ducato is a large van with a large customer following and is arguably the Italian brand's most important UK model. Experience with this 4th generation version should reveal the reasons why.
With well over 2 million examples built over a production run that stretches back over 4 generations to 1981, Fiat Ducato is the large van that a huge number of European businesses turn to when size really matters. Now, the keys to its success are many, but flexibility is surely one of them. The Italian designers having been able to create this LCV in over 2,000 different forms. That's in contrast to the Peugeot and Citroën models that share this Ducato's basic design. Vans sold and marketed by brands whose experience and expertise really lies with much smaller LCVs. Fiat, on the other hand, claims to understand the needs of large van buyers much better, as it will need to if this model is to successfully increase the company's UK market share, not only against Ford's ubiquitous Transit, but also against competitors of the quality of the Volkswagen Crafter, Mercedes Sprinter design, and the more recent Vauxhall Movano and Renault Master package. In other words, this Italian contender had better be good. Let's find out if it is. There's something reassuringly commanding about driving this class of large van. Compared to a supposedly high-set SUV, a perch here feels something akin to the umpire's chair at Wimbledon, from where you control a vehicle of the kind of size that brooks no argument when it comes to fighting over space in slow-moving traffic. This then is a very satisfying place to be. It's not perfect, of course. The multi-adjustable driving position would benefit from a wheel that goes up and down as well as in and out, and the handbrake is slightly awkwardly situated between the side of the seat and the door. It's something you get used to quite quickly though, as long as you make sure to put it fully down before moving off. Under your right foot there's a range of very different Fiat Multijet common rail diesel engines from which to choose. The entry-level 2.2 litre 100 brake horsepower unit and the flagship 3 litre 157 brake horsepower engine, well, they're both shared with the Citroën and Peugeot variations of this design. But the mid-range 2.3 litre 120 brake horsepower diesel, well, that's all Fiat's own. That's the version that I'm driving here, aiming to offer prodigious reserves of torque, 320 newton meters in fact. And that's enough to boost the brake towing limit of 2,000 kilograms. That's what you get on the entry-level 2.2 litre model. It boosts it to 2,500 kilograms. And that can make all the difference if that's one of the things that you regularly do as part of your business. Now, that entry-level 2.2 must make do with a 5-speed manual gearbox, but if you go for either the 2.3 or the 3 litre, you get a 6-speeder. And on the 3 litre model, there's the option of a Comfort-Matic automatic gearbox. It's also worth bearing in mind, if you go for the entry-level 2.2, that you'll have to do without the variable assistance on the power steering that keeps it light in town and a little heavier on the open road. Even with this feature in place on the 2.3 and 3 litre models, some owners may find the helm a little light, but it does mean that it's very manoeuvrable around town, where there's a tight 12.5 metre turning circle between curbs. Fiat has also worked hard to improve refinement on this generation Ducato model, with extra soundproofing and, for a van, a very slippery 0.31 CD drag factor. None of which will really help you if you choose to do without the optional full-width steel bulkhead that really keeps noise down when you're on longer trips. If you're going to be carrying heavier loads, there's the option of replacing the standard version's simple single leaf sprung rear suspension arrangement with a double leaf setup, or even a pneumatic self-leveling system. Whichever you choose though, you'll find that this van, like most others, needs some weight in the back to handle really neatly. But once you have it, this vehicle really responds very impressively indeed for a vehicle of this size, a legacy perhaps of the improvement of 30% in torsional rigidity over previous generation Ducato models. And that's despite this generation model's greater length and load space. Now that means more composure around the corners and smoothness on the straights than perhaps you might be expecting, but should it ever all get away from you, then there's of course ABS brakes, with brake assist to maximise their effectiveness, ASR to limit slip under harsh acceleration, and MSR, which modulates braking torque so that you don't get those huge jerks if you change down too quickly. It's a pity though that ESP stability control is optional on some versions, but if you do get it, then you also get Fiat's load adaptive control, so it adjusts to the weight of the load that you're carrying. You also get, as part of the package, hydraulic brake assist and a system that stops you from drifting backwards at uphill junctions, a hill holder clutch. Fiat says that this LCV features design based on the looks of a modern high-speed train. It's certainly more striking than its rather nondescript predecessor, and this three-piece bumper is practical as well as purposeful, thoughtfully incorporating a couple of steps to help the driver climb up and clean the windscreen. The boomerang-shaped headlamps are pitched well out of harm's way just under the windscreen, though the same can't be said of the indicators built into large door mirrors that also incorporate aerials for the vehicle's GPS, GSM and radio systems, so you certainly won't want to be bashing one of those. Moving rearwards, there's a heavy swage line that extends down both flanks above chunky side strips that protect against minor damage. At the back, the rear bumper doubles as a step, and there are chunky rubber buffers either side of the rear door to protect against day-to-day bumps and scrapes. Access to the cabin on this generation model has been made a little easier by the lowering of the entry step by 50mm to just 450mm. Now once inside, it'll feel like a big improvement if you haven't tried anything from the current crop of modern generation large vans. True build quality isn't quite as good as in pricier rivals, but it all feels very solid and built to last, with a great emphasis on day-to-day usability. Now, there's a choice between a two-person cabin or the one that most buyers will choose, this two-person seat that enables you to take up to 3 people. And those in the middle will be thankful for the central dash positioning of this gear stick. It's up here on the dash rather than on the floor. Now that also more easily enables the driver to slide across if necessary and exit on the passenger side of the vehicle. Then you've a multitude of storage options. These include the usual glove box, a lockable lidded bin in the centre of the fascia that's big enough to swallow a laptop. You've got cubby holes on the passenger side, 2, one above the other, and further storage areas both below and to the right of the steering wheel. And it doesn't end there. Further places to stash stuff include this lidded bin on the top of the passenger side of the dashboard. There's an optional shelf above driver and passenger heads. You've also got deep tiered door bins that are big enough to hold a 1 litre flask or a very large bottle of water. And I really like the way that the centre part of the middle passenger seat folds down to reveal a little desk, complete with a clipboard element and 2 cup holders. Now, there are also trays beneath passenger and driver seats if you opt for them, but not everything fits into trays or shelves, so it's nice to see features like this clip-out clipboard for delivery notes or invoices, though rather frustratingly, it won't pop up into your eye line if you specify a passenger airbag. List pricing suggests that you'll be paying somewhere between £18,000 and £28,000 for your Fiat Ducato van, about the same as you would for obvious rivals like Vauxhall's Movano, or of course this vehicle's design stablemates, Peugeot's Boxer and Citroen's Relay. All will save you a bit on rivals like Volkswagen's Crafter or Mercedes Sprinter. As you'd expect, there's a wide range of body sizes available with 4 different lengths, 3 different wheelbases and 3 different roof heights. Now these allow low capacities that range from 8 cubic metres to a truly sizable 17 cubic metres. This Ducato can manage some seriously hefty cargoes too, with gross vehicle weight platforms that range between 3, 3.3, 3.5 and 4 tonnes. Payloads range between 1,115 kilograms and 1,850 kilograms. Plus there's a wide range of body styles on offer that include the Combinato 9-seater MPV, single or double cab options and 17-seat minibuses, as well as the usual factory built and approved variations that create things like chassis cabs, crew cabs, drop sides, tippers, even Luton derivatives. Now, the motor caravan market is also especially important to Fiat, who are multi-time winners of Which Motor Caravan's Base Vehicle Award, which perhaps explains why 2 in every 3 camper vans sold in the UK feature Ducato chassis cab bases. Standard equipment includes a remote control central locking system with deadlocks that allows you to lock the cab and the load area separately and activates once the vehicle is moving. You also get electrically operated and heated large door mirrors, power windows, an MP3 compatible CD stereo and 12-volt power sockets in both the cab and the load bay. There are also useful interior lights above the door openings. Were I an owner-driver, I'd also be looking to see if my budget would allow for the ticking of a few extra boxes on the options list for features like the fixed full-width steel bulkhead behind the driver's seat, perhaps a second sliding side door, 270-degree opening perhaps for the rear doors, self-leveling rear suspension, a larger fuel tank, parking sensors, perhaps even with a colour rear parking camera, and stuff in the cab like larger door mirrors, a heat-resistant windscreen, supplementary heaters, a shock-resistant driver's seat, and Fiat's clever Microsoft-developed Blue & Me telematics system that also includes Bluetooth connectivity. Safety-wise, you only get a driver's airbag in the standard tally, but passenger side and curtain bags are available on the options list. So let's tug on one of the big suitcase-style door handles and see if this Ducato really will be big enough for your business. Now, as you'd expect, the rear doors open out to 90 degrees with a further option to open out to 180 degrees by pressing this button here that stops you having to get your fingers greasy while you're doing it. An option allows you to extend that even more to 270 degrees if that's required. But whichever approach you end up taking, the rear door aperture is certainly very large. You've got 1,565 millimeters of width and 1,520 millimeters of height, even if you don't go for the really high roof option that I've got here. So yes, your stuff will probably fit. But what about actually getting it in? Well, it helps that access is via this wide non-slip step and that the loading height is low, between 535 and 560 millimeters, depending on the variant that you choose. Now, once inside, load length can be anything from 2,670 millimeters in the 8 cubic meter Ducato that most customers choose, to as much as 4,070 millimeters if you go for a really big version like this one. In the same way, loading height, well, there's a lot of options here as well, from 1,662 millimeters in a standard 8 cubic meter Ducato to 1,932 millimeters if you go for a higher roof version, to as much as 2,172 millimeters in the highest roof model if you need a really big version. Now, whichever Ducato you choose, the loading width is the same, 1,870 millimeters side to side, which narrows to 1,422 millimeters between these wheel boxes. But that's still enough to load an 8x4 sheet flat on the floor. Now, if you're loading in from the side, as you can see, there's plenty of width to get in a standard Euro pallet. The width of the aperture, I've got one sliding side door here. I could have opted for two. There's a second one on the options list. The width of the aperture is 1,250 millimeters, and you've got 1,485 millimeters of height. However you get things in, there are plenty of tie-down points so that you can use load restraining belts and keep your cargo from moving around. You've got 6 on the floor in this model, 4 more at waist height above the wheel boxes, and 2 at the bottom of this fixed steel bulkhead that I've opted for on this variant. If you've got the load restraining frame behind the driver's seat that comes as standard, then you can also tie things to the bottom of that. Now, to avoid scrapes and dents, there's a protective lining up to waist height on the standard versions, but there's really no substitute for a proper ply lining kit, as I've opted for here. Keeping costs down will be a major priority for potential owners, so they'll appreciate features like these three-piece bumpers that mean that in the event of an accident, you only have to replace the part that's actually damaged. It also helps that Fiat's professional van dealer network is now recognised as one of the strongest in the industry for after sales, since it was extended to include a number of truck dealers. Now, the servicing intervals are certainly pretty generous for these engines. Every 25,000 miles for a 2.2 and every 28,000 miles for either a 2.3 or a 3 litre, or every 2 years if you don't achieve those kinds of mileages.
There's also a 3-year paintwork warranty. Also factor in a 120,000 mile or 3-year mechanical warranty with no mileage limit for the first 2 years and 8 years of anti-corrosion protection.
There's also 36 months of roadside recovery and assistance included as part of your purchase. As for running costs, well, expect to achieve around 35 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle as a reasonable average if your business is running one of the 2.2 litre variants. That's as long as your mileage isn't too much urban based. Fiat's experience and expertise when it comes to large vans is matched in this Ducato by very well thought out product design. It aims to set itself apart from its Citroën and Peugeot design stablemates with value pricing, a unique and very torquey mid-range 2.3 litre diesel engine and a more flexible dealer network. We have, of course, had a whole clutch of newer large van designs hit the market since this vehicle first appeared back in 2007. But though their creators must have pulled this Ducato apart piece by piece to try and improve upon it, none of them have been able to produce a big LCV good enough to put this versatile Fiat in the shade. Which means that if your business is in the market for a vehicle like this, then this is one that you have to consider.